What is up, my Squirtleites? It is I, your king, welcoming you back to Destiny. It is June 9th, and I know it's towards the end of the day, but I've only been able to just now get around to recording this video because, well, I have a life and unfortunately cannot stay at home and make videos all day. I actually have to do things so I can make video. You know, it doesn't matter, whatever. We're not getting into that. Right now, we're going to be talking about Rise of Iron. Today was the reveal stream from Bungie. They announced all sorts of cool things about the next expansion, and I'm excited to talk about it all, but I also kind of wanted to go over some concerns and some expectations I would like to set for this expansion. Both realistic and also, I guess, you know, stuff I'd like to see, but I don't really think is going to be in the expansion. We probably won't see until Destiny 2 or onward. Let's talk about Rise of Iron itself. So Rise of Iron is going to be taking place in the Cosmodrome once again. It's going to be in an extension of the Cosmodrome known as the Plaguelands. It, along with two other areas in the patrol area, I think it's called Fellwinter Peak and the Wall, are going to be accessible, and we're going to get a whole new campaign. We're going to get a whole new story, a bunch of missions, a bunch of quests, including, you know, stuff to get new exotics and whatnot. All sorts of new fun little things that we're going to be able to do in the PvE space. There's also going to be a new raid. There's going to be, I believe, 2 strikes. Now, there's, on the site, it only says 1 strike is coming, but in the stream, it said new strikes, which leads me to believe that there's also going to be probably a PlayStation exclusive strike as well. And then there will be patrols and public events. Of course, there's also going to be Crucible updates, but they talked nothing about that other than the fact that they said there were going to be new maps and a new mode and new features. That's all they said in the stream. They didn't go into detail on that any further. Of course, we're going to be learning more about this as E3 goes along. And then, of course, in the coming months leading up to September 20th when this thing drops for $30. So let's talk about all the things that I like about this. For one, it's good content, okay? We're getting, it's pretty much a full expansion. Not quite Taken King size. There's a couple less strikes. I mean, who knows what the size of this new area is going to be. It might not be as big as the Dreadnought was. I mean, it looks like it might be a little bit smaller. But one, they're charging $30, which is $10 below the retail of the Taken King, which I think is fantastic. And two, it's actually much more engaging content, in my opinion. Because the thing about Rise of Iron, unlike the Taken King felt much more like they were trying to progress in the right direction when it came to storytelling, but I don't feel like it hit the nail on the head. Rise of Iron, on the other hand, seems to be going into the lore, like very directly going into the lore of Destiny, which is fantastic, and making a full-fledged story out of it. And I like that a lot. That is exactly what I expect and want from future Destiny expansions, and it feels like this is the first time they're actually doing that. Taken King really didn't have, you know, much lore about it, or at least prior to the release that we knew about. We did know that he was Crota's father, but that was the extent of it. Prior to Rise of Iron, we've actually learned a lot about these Iron Lords and these characters that this story is referring to, and the Iron Banner and whatnot. We actually have a lot of lore leading up to it, but all this is going to do is expound upon that lore and allow us to learn, you know, or basically get the conclusion of it all, because there are a lot of unknowns and whatnot in said lore. And so that's what I like a lot more about this. The lore is kind of the groundwork, but I would like, if anything, I would like this game to expound upon and finish each and every single one of those pieces of lore that the game has given us, rather than, you know, just giving the starting pieces, you know, because I know that's what a lot of people complained about, is the fact that the game is, you know, the game's lore was all limited to the Grimoire cards. I still think that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. However, the thing about stories is they are told in a beginning, a middle, and an end, okay? And the thing about the Grimoire cards is they are only the beginning and the middle of 95% of the stories in this game, okay? The game, I feel like, is not supposed to, you know, it's not supposed to tell the whole story, but rather conclude those stories. And in that respect, I'm actually very much okay with the way that the Grimoire is presented in this universe, and hope that's how it works moving forward. I like the new setting. I like that the new setting of, you know, the Cosmodrome, it's much more Siberian. There's a lot more snow, mountains, and all that. I love snowy settings in video games. It's one of my favorite things of all time. I love ice levels, snow levels, all that stuff in any video game. It's like my aesthetic. I'm very happy to see more of that. The Fallen are cool. I definitely enjoy fighting them as enemies a lot more than like the Taken, let's say. Although, of course, we don't know what new abilities these splicers, which are the kind of going to be a subclass or subgenre of Fallen that we're going to be fighting this expansion. We don't know exactly what abilities they have, but as long as they're not teleporting around all over the place, I think I'm okay with it. And then, of course, you know, we've got a new raid, which my biggest hope for the raid is that it's much more accessible than King's Fall was. Don't get me wrong, King's Fall is, by design, a great raid. It's right up there with Vault of Glass, much better than Crota's End on a technical level. However, if there's one thing I respected greatly, even if it was a little bit unintentional when it comes to Crota's End, it was the fact that that raid was extremely accessible to people of smaller fire teams. You could be in a fire team of 3, 4, 5, or 6 and get that thing done. You didn't have to be in a group of 6. Heck, even Vault, you could get away with 4 if you were coordinated enough. King's Fall, 5, I think, is like the minimum. I've seen people do it with less, but those are only the most insane and most dedicated of PvE players. It's really 5 or 6 or bust. Like, you cannot do it with a smaller fire team than that. Not saying that I want this to be designed around a 3-man, you know, a 3-man structure or anything. I still want it to be designed the way it usually is, but I would like that level of flexibility we got from the other raids, at the very least. Yes, sure, you can go in with 3, and as a result, it's much, much more difficult, but I still think I would like for it to be more possible for that to happen than it was in King's Fall. Because, let's face it, the statistics show that not a lot of people still do the raids just because it's so inaccessible for them. And there are a lot of solo players in Destiny. As for the strikes, of course, I always love me some good strikes. I am a little bit disappointed that we're only getting probably 2 strikes. But at the same time, I mean, I don't know. I'm okay with it, I guess. Strikes aren't really the biggest deal. I just hope that they bring all of the strikes from year 1 and year 2 up this time, like all of them, and just make it so they're all so much more accessible, and we just have this wide variety of strikes to pick from, rather than constantly getting the same 6 or 7 strikes throughout the rest of the game as we progress. I'm excited to see the new social space, of course. Which is also being added. That's going to take place in Felwinter Peak. We're apparently supposed to go and claim this new social space, and then we can get into it. So obviously we'll be unlocking it at some point through the story. Very, very exciting. I can't wait to see what's in store for us there. It looks really, really cool. It's very much got this Game of Thrones / Elder Scrolls / Lord of the Rings aesthetic to it, and I absolutely love it. Very, very, very cool. And then, of course, there was the thing that everyone was talking about this morning, and that is Gallarhorn. Gallarhorn is coming into the Taken King, and everybody's going to be able to get it through a certain quest. However, if you pre-order the game, you will not, I believe, not unlock it early. You will still have to get it through the same quest, but instead of getting the gold and white and bronze Gallarhorn that everyone knows, you'll be getting this like silver and red and black one. That looks super sweet. That's if you pre-order the game. Now, as long as that is just a skin, and it does not in any way affect unlockability or availability to anyone, I guess I'm okay with it. I mean, I hate pre-order bonuses regardless, but of course, you know, there's corporate crap that people have to do, and Activision is Activision, and Activision sucks. But as long as that's the extent of it, I guess I'm okay. If pre-ordering it unlocks you that Gallarhorn early, I will not be okay with it. I will be very, very ticked, actually. So, hopefully that's not the case. I don't think that's the case from the way they made it sound. It sounds like it's just going to be the color of your Gallarhorn when you do unlock it. Although, I do hope you can still get the gold one, because it looks kind of cool, too. So, I'd like to be able to hold, you know, have 2 Gallarhorns floating around, you know, different colors. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, and then, of course, there's the Crucible stuff, which, again, they didn't talk about. There are going to be new maps and a new mode. I know a lot of people are hoping for, like, a capture the flag mode kind of thing. And then there's the new features, which has me intrigued the most. So, overall, I like all of this. I do like this. Oh, and of course, I gotta remember the most important part. They're dropping last gen. Xbox 360 and PS3 are now considered legacy consoles and will not be able to acquire Rise of Iron. You have to upgrade. On top of that, if you do not upgrade by August, your character progression will not carry over onto PS4 or Xbox One from PS3 or Xbox 360. And then they're going to have, I believe, their own separate set of progression elsewhere. We don't know what that's going to be yet. I'm hoping they get something good, maybe at least, a light increase and whatnot within the Taken King. Like they can actually be able to still keep up number-wise, but maybe not have new content or something like that, which incentivizes them to buy it, but also, doesn't completely kill off their characters, I guess. And, honestly, you should be switching. Destiny needs to be a next-gen game. I do feel bad, but at the same time, I don't, because every other game franchise out there has pretty much left last gen behind. In fact, they kind of did it 2 years ago. I mean, we're at the point where Destiny is really one of the only franchises still carrying PS3 and Xbox 360 on its back. So I think it's time to cut it loose. It really is time to cut it loose. And this is perfect. I like this. And hopefully, loosing these limitations does wonders for the game like it should. So let's talk about some things that I hope we're getting from this. I mean, as far as the PvE stuff goes, I'm pretty satisfied. I think the only two things I would really like out of this is, one, we still get constant events. And I'm talking more like PvE related events. I hope we start getting them on a more regular basis. I hope there's like this rotating system of constant interesting stuff to do. I mean, don't get me wrong, Iron Banner once a month is cool. Trials every weekend is cool, but there needs to be other PvE stuff to keep people engaged. I feel like we just don't have that, and there needs to be, otherwise PvE goes stale the second you finish the raid, and that's a problem, in my opinion. They need to find a way to keep things constantly moving, but also at the same time keep it repetitive enough to a point that nobody can miss out on anything. I just want a constant stream of stuff to do in PvE. That is my #1 priority. And 2, I hope that they kind of rework the quest system, because as far as I'm concerned, a lot of the quests in the Taken King were much more tedium than they were actual, than an actual quest. Especially, like, I still haven't even gotten my exotic sword, nor do I even plan to in the Taken King, because they're just such a pain to get. As well as, there's other quests that fall in line with that as well. I mean, freaking Touch of Malice, collecting all those calcified fragments, it just wasn't worth it to me. I mean, I know that it's the end-all be-all weapon for fighting Oryx in the raid, but I don't have that drive to get it, because it's just, I mean, I don't raid for one, but like a lot of people don't, but 2, it's just so much of a hassle, and it's a grind, and it's tedium at its finest, and I don't like tedium. I absolutely do not like tedium. I really hope that they rework the quests to be more engaging, especially with the exotics. I know a lot of people complained about weapons such as Sleeper Stimulant when it came to unlocking them, because they didn't really feel all that grand at all, even though they were things that everyone was super excited for. I hope that there's just something about them that makes them much more interesting. But yes, as far as PvE goes, for the most part, I like it. PvP stuff, I really don't know what to expect at the moment. I mean, of course, everybody wants their custom games. They want their ranked and unranked. So they can have one that's connection-based only and skill-based only. They can divide that up and stuff like that. There's all these little things that people are expecting. Dedicated servers, blah, blah, blah. I would love that too, but the skeptic in me does not expect any of that in Rise of Iron. I do not expect any of it until Destiny 2 comes out with a completely new game engine. Completely new set of code, completely new game. Otherwise, I just cannot see it happening. I feel like, because at the rate that Bungie has released patches with this game, at the rate that they update things, at the rate they can produce content that has been shown through all of Destiny 1, I just don't think it's feasible. And it sucks, it really does, but I just I can't see it happening. I would love to be wrong about this, but I can't see it happening. Things I do at least want are, I think I want more of a rotation when it comes to the weapon varieties in this game. I want, because that's the thing is, yeah, they've balanced weapons out, but when it comes to ease of use and whatnot, and, you know, learning curves and stuff like that, there's so many weapons that people are just going to gravitate towards. I mean, look at Mida Multi-Tool. One of the easiest weapons to use in the game, and it's also one of the most effective as a result. There are weapons that can be just as effective as it, sure, but, and sometimes even more so, but they just take so much more time to learn that it isn't worth the effort. I mean, look at hand cannons, for instance. Hand cannons in the right hands and in a very select few hands can, you know, 60-40 outgun pulse rifles, or those fast-firing pulse rifles, or high rate of fire auto rifles, if you're really skilled with it. Sure, they can be great, but for the average player, they are just terrible weapons. They are absolutely terrible. You have to keep so much more in mind when you use them. Pulse rifle, you can just fire away without a thought in the world. All you have to do is line up and shoot. But then with something like a hand cannon, you have to pace your shots, and you have to keep so many different factors in mind. Your distance, you know, your perk, when your bloom is back, you know, on center and whatnot. I mean, there's just so many things about this game that, you know, because every single weapon has so many darn intricacies in Destiny, I don't think it's the weapons themselves, as far as their actual effectiveness on paper, that needs to be balanced. I think it needs to be their ease of use that's balanced. Okay? Because I will admit, every single one of the weapons has had their heyday. I feel like pulse rifles, as far as ease of use, are in a great place. I feel like scout rifles are in the same way. I feel like certain variants of auto rifles are, but certain variants of auto rifles are absolutely not, because some of them are just way too punishing if you don't land every single shot on the head. I feel like hand cannons were in an awesome place, at least as far as ease of use at the end of year one. Of course, they needed some fixes, but not all of them that they ended up getting. So yeah, I mean, like, there's things that I still think need to be fixed, and I think a different mindset needs to be had towards the Crucible when it comes to development. Do I expect that to be changed? No, but I want it to happen before, you know, before this update drops. I want them to start thinking in those terms, because otherwise we're never going to really have a great Crucible experience in actuality. We're just going to have a great Crucible experience on paper, and I don't know if I like that. Now, the stream did say new features, and I think that's what a lot of people are taking as custom games and stuff like that. When it comes to new features, I can see something like that. I can see, but what I think might actually be more realistic is more of a variety of different options of game modes you can get into. When it comes to new features, you can probably select certain game modes, because, like, for instance, let me tell you what I'm talking about. For instance, Rumble, okay? You cannot go in with a fire team in that mode, all right? But there might be like a toggle option, okay? So you can go into, you can select a certain Rumble mode that does not allow you to go in with a fire team at all, which, so basically the solo queue. Or you can toggle so that it instead matches you only with groups. Like, you can go in with a group of 3, and therefore you will only be put in a Rumble match with another group of 3, or stuff like that. I can see, like, toggling when it comes to your selection of modes. I can see toggles for each and every one of the playlists. Like, they have, you know, currently they have the freelance playlists and whatnot, which are extremely popular. Well, instead of making those a rotating thing, what if they just have, you know, when you're on the menu screen, you hit in the right trigger, and instead of having, you know, just control, just clash, just all this blah blah blah, you have freelance control, freelance clash, freelance rift, you know, all that stuff that you can select from. And that sounds like it's a little bit more plausible to me. It sounds also a little bit more regrettable, and, you know, it's obviously not as exciting to most people, but realistically, that's the kind of stuff that makes sense. I'm very excited for this, of course. You know, I love Destiny, and I can't wait to cover this stuff as well. You know, Rise of Iron's going to be great. I always want to see new content. I don't know if we'll be getting anything until Rise of Iron, so this might be the last thing I do until Rise of Iron comes out, which is fine. I mean, I've got other games to play. I've got Overwatch. No Man's Sky is coming out in like a month or two. I mean, I'm not bitter about it or anything about having to wait till September 20th. It's just, you know, I can't wait. Like, I can't wait from in the sense of I'm excited, but I also can wait. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for this episode. Thank you all so very much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.
Let them burn in your light.